Hello, friends. Thank you for listening to Diet Diaries today. This is episode, I think, 284 or something like that. It is going to air on Monday, July 20th. I don't know when you're listening to it, but thank you for being here. Today's episode is going to be about what, why, and how I ate on our 4-day trip to Colorado last week. I kind of had like an epiphany about doing an episode like this. I've never really done anything like this before. I did do an episode about eating on our trip to Greece, which, oh my God, was 4 years ago. I can't believe it's 4 years ago this August. But you guys know, like I share a lot of like things that I eat in real time on Instagram, kind of how I'm thinking about things or choices I make. And I was about to start doing that on Wednesday after we landed and had lunch. And I was like, wait a minute, I think I'm going to have a lot to say over the next few days. What if I kind of saved it and did a podcast episode? So I did a quick poll and you guys were totally into it. So here we are. And this is not going to be like a live food journal. I'm not going to run you through everything that I ate. That would get kind of boring. I'm going to talk about definitely some specific situations. And really what I'm going to share kind of some overall themes that I noticed popped up in the way that I think about food when traveling. Because here's like the biggest thing about traveling. Look, so we were staying in a hotel. If you are staying in an Airbnb or you are staying at someone's house, all these situations are different from each other, right? So we were in a hotel and we had a rental car. That in and of itself is a unique situation. You might be in a hotel without a rental car. You might be like at a resort. You might be in the middle of nowhere. All this to say, kind of my point, is that circumstances play a huge role in eating on vacation. Huge, but like a capital Huge. Circumstances might play a big role when you eat at home, but one of the big skills that we work on in coaching is learning actually how to work with that, but also to have circumstances play less of a role at home. When you are away, there's lots of extenuating circumstances. The whole fact that you're away is an extenuating circumstance. And so you are not going to eat the same while you are away as you do at home. Hard stop. And I think just acknowledging that and creating some space for that is super important. Now, I got a Facebook memory that popped up from, I think, like 5 years ago that said something to the effect of like, if the way that you eat on vacation is like drastically different than the way you eat from when you're at home, the way you're eating at home isn't working for you. And I still stand by that to a certain extent. If you're going on vacation and it feels like a chance to have a free-for-all and that when you get back home, you're going to like buckle down, there's lots of red flags there for me. That's not to say that when you go away that you need to be eating exactly like you do at home, because that's not either realistic, it's not normal, it's not fun. It's just not part of what going away is. And obviously I'm talking about vacation, right? Work travel might feel different. So I'm talking about kind of a specific situation. And we were in, again, like I said, we were in a hotel, and where you are is going to impact this greatly. Whether or not you have a rental car, if you're at a resort, or you're at like a random hotel, if you're at whatever it is going to impact things. So kind of like one of the really big overarching themes is that circumstances play a huge role. And you are going to make choices that are often sometimes based on circumstances, which are going to be very different, hopefully, than you do at home. And kind of like the crux of the whole thing is that what I always talk about, like eat with ease, right? That's like the name of my coaching framework. That doesn't mean that every meal is like perfectly balanced, or that you only eat when you're hungry, or that you stop exactly when you're full, or you always eat the exact right amount and have everything perfectly portioned. That's not what that means, right? Eating with ease means that you have the ability to pay attention and make thoughtful, intentional choices in almost any situation, in almost any circumstance, without shit falling to pieces, without turning it into a problem, without feeling like shit. Said differently, you're able to make those choices and feel really good and keep going and stay in alignment with what works for you. That's what eating with ease is. And so that's like, I'm really proud of how I ate on this trip, and I'm going to kind of walk you through some specific situations, but I think that's a really helpful and important like shift around vacation, right? If you intentionally and thoughtfully want vacation to be a free-for-all, that's totally your choice. Like if that feels good for you. what I would say is, why do you feel the need for it to be a free-for-all, right? What's happening in your day-to-day life at home that's giving you the urge that you really need to like let loose and let go? And if you feel like, oh my God, I can't deviate at all from what I eat from home. I need to be eating the same exact thing. I need to get X amount of protein. I need to eat it these times. I'm not allowed to eat this food. I will only eat this food. Again, that's a really big indicator that the way that you're eating, what, why, and how you're eating at home is not really working for you long term, and not working for you in a way that's in alignment with what's good for your mental health and what's going to get you to your goals and help you stay there long term. I think one of the first two really interesting situations that I wanted to share, these are going to be specifics, is we landed in Denver and I was fucking starving. I had eaten, I think, a protein bar in the airport, whatever. So priority number one, after we picked up our rental car, was food, and we decided to go to Chick-fil-A. Now, I happen to think that Chick-fil-A is an excellent fast food option if you eat meat. And I will tell you what I ordered there when I was starving. I ordered a 3-piece chicken tender with fries, and I got the kale crunch salad. Okay. And I'm going to share with you my thinking on this. I'm not going to do this for every meal, but I'm going to do it here because I think we problematize fast food a lot. And I want to share with you just the way that I kind of make situations like that work for me, right? So easy to get protein in that situation. Is it breaded protein? It is. Chick-fil-A's breaded options happen to be like really high in protein, which I just kind of know that. We have, I don't know if there's Chick-fil-A nationwide. I think it's mostly nationwide. But I knew that the 3 chicken tenders was like a good amount of protein, and I wanted fries. Like the waffle fries at Chick-fil-A are awesome. There's no way I am going to Chick-fil-A and not getting fries. But I knew I needed more than that. I knew that wasn't going to be enough food. So I added on the kale crunch salad for some volume, for some veggies. Yeah, it gave me some nutrition. It was really kind of less about the nutrition, more about I need more food to take up space in my stomach. But I know that if I get like another order of fries, that's not going to feel good. And I also don't want to get like another order of chicken. I just don't want to eat 6 chicken tenders. That's like, ugh. So I added the salad, and it was like, I kind of had some of everything. And I will tell you guys, like when I left there, I felt pretty good. I was still a little bit hungry, and that's going to lead into something a little bit later. But I got everything I wanted. It was totally satisfying and filling enough. It wasn't as filling as it could have been. But it worked. And so sometimes getting creative, like I added on, I think I got like a meal. Cause in the meal, you could choose whether or not you want fries or a salad. And I think I like chose the salad and then added on the order of fries, right? I love those fries. They played a huge role in my enjoyment and my satisfaction of the meal. So I'm always thinking my skill, NSF, I've kind of changed the language on that, I think, to make it a little bit more user-friendly, but it's the same thing. Is it nutritious? Is it satisfying? Is it filling? Right? I'm always running that through my head. Sometimes it's going to be possible. Sometimes it's not, but it's always in there. I mean, I hit the nutrition. I got the protein and the veggies. I got the satisfaction by, obviously I'm at Chick-fil-A, so I'm eating breaded chicken. I mean, you're never going to miss me with the grilled chicken nuggets. Like, no judgment. If you love them, that's awesome. But I cannot imagine like picking up a piece of grilled chicken like that and eating it. That's just not for me. That's not something I would get enjoyment out of. If you love it, cool. I would get zero satisfaction out of that. And it would just make me crave something else later and end up eating even more food. So I nailed the satisfaction with getting the chicken fingers and getting the fries. And it was filling because I had enough protein and I got that extra salad, right? NSF, nutritious, satisfying, filling. I'm always using that. The outcomes are going to differ in different situations. So here's the thing. Later that afternoon, and this is not going to be a food journal, but these are just some specific situations I really wanted to mention. I was like craving a chocolate chip cookie. Like and this craving was going on for like hours. This wasn't something that like kind of, does like the little craving crest wave that people talk about, which is absolutely a real thing and something that we work through. This craving was not like cresting. It just kept going and going and going and going over a long period of time. So I'm like, okay, I really want to get a cookie. We got to the hotel and we're in like a city, so it's walkable. And I walk over, there's a Dunkin' Donuts like across the street from the hotel. Back in the day, Dunkin' Donuts used to have cookies. So I'm like, let me just go check. They did not. So I look on my phone and I see there's a Crumbl like half a mile away. And I actually, believe it or not, I've never been to a Crumbl. I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk to Crumbl. So I walk over to Crumbl, and I had planned on getting in my head, I know the Crumbl cookies are massive. I'm like, well, I'm going to get chocolate chip, and I'm going to eat however much I feel like and want to eat, and we'll kind of see how much that is. And, I'll move on with my life. But then I get there and I see they have minis, and you can get a box of 3 minis. I'm like, oh, fun. So I get a chocolate chip, I get a frosted sugar cookie thing, and like a brownie cookie. There's 3 cookies. She hands them to me. I walk out the door. I immediately open the box and start eating as I'm walking, right? There's no like sitting down on a plate and a napkin in this situation. This is like, I'm away. This is, I think, a great example of, not every skill is applicable, or the outcome of each skill is going to be different in every situation. I was able to like pay attention to them, but I wasn't sitting down eating them on a napkin, right? I'm away, I'm traveling. That's not really going to be realistic all the time. So I take a bite of the chocolate chip cookie, and immediately I'm like, this is kind of disappointing. I put it back in the box. I take a bite of the sugar cookie, which was like thick and rich, and it was cold, had been sitting in the fridge. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. And I had those 2 bites, and the craving was gone, and I was done. I put that sugar cookie back in the box. I held the box in my hands. I walked back to the room. I went to the room. Danny was doing like a work call. He had like a few bites. There was, I think, part of 1 cookie left, and we threw it away. Done. That was it. That craving was satisfied with 2 bites of a cookie. And I wanted to share that with you because I gave myself permission. I had a craving. I didn't try to push it away. I didn't try to ignore it. I didn't try to fill it with protein or with an apple. And it wasn't because that I hadn't eaten enough protein at lunch. I had like a really good amount of protein at lunch. I'd had a salad. I'd had a protein bar earlier that morning. I just fucking wanted a chocolate chip cookie. Like that. I just wanted it because I'm a human being and I'm allowed to want chocolate chip cookies. And so when you give yourself permission and space to do that, and then you give yourself permission and space to notice what's happening as you're eating that thing, and not automatically assume that because you're having a chocolate chip cookie, you're just going to tell yourself, well, I have a craving. I'm going to have this cookie. I'm going to say, fuck it. I'm going to eat the whole cookie, and then I'll restart tomorrow. You might actually realize you don't need or want the whole cookie. You might just want 2 bites. Or it might be so fucking good that you want the whole thing, which happened the next day when we got Van Leeuwen ice cream up in Boulder. And I ate an entire giant fucking scoop of banana pudding fudge banana cake ice cream. It was fucking awesome. I ate the whole goddamn thing after having eaten an entire burger and french fries, every last french fry, including some of Danny's. Different circumstance, different situation, different outcome. So do you see how like there's 2 days, I just kind of threw in that ice cream example, but this is back-to-back days, cookies from Crumbl, ice cream at Van Leeuwen, eating like, high calorie sweet foods only meant for a pleasure, totally different outcomes. Had 2 bites of one, had the entire fucking thing of the other, based on what was going on at the time and based on what I was paying attention to. So again, kind of like leveling this up to the overarching skill of when you're traveling, how can you stay checked in and paying attention? How can you notice what you're experiencing? Because that is something that you can do in any situation, whether you're at McDonald's, whether you're at Sweet Green, whether you're at the grocery store, whether you're at your grandma's house and she's making baked ziti, whether you're at your vegan uncle's house and you're eating like oats and vegetables, right? Like wherever you are, you can be paying attention to what's the nutrition that's here. You may not have control over it, but you can notice it. What's my satisfaction level? How much am I enjoying this? And how full am I? Now, again, you may not always have control over the options. Very often you're not, but you can still be paying attention to those 3 things and how that's impacting you. And then when maybe you do have more flexibility, maybe you leave wherever you are and you go pick up something else to eat. You can be making choices, right? Nobody is actually forcing you to eat anything. There are options. And staying present with yourself. There's a line from a book by Janine Roth, who is an amazing author who's written several books around her relationship with food and emotional eating and just developing a healthier, more regulated relationship with food. I highly, highly recommend her books, where she talks about keeping yourself company while you eat. And to me, it's one of the most profound and sticky statements I've ever heard. And I share it with clients all the time. So I'm sharing it here with you. You need to keep yourself company. You need to stay with yourself. So often we check out for lots of different reasons, which I won't get into. But very often, especially when we're traveling, we check out because we throw up our hands and we either say, fuck it, I'm traveling. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm not going to be able to eat at all. I'm not going to be able to stay on track. So we just say, fuck it. I'll deal with it when I get back. And talk about not keeping yourself company. You basically say, fuck off to yourself. But staying with yourself, paying attention, and making the choices that you have the capacity to make in that moment, given the circumstances. So I have a lot of notes because I like journaled while I was away. So I'm looking over. Okay. So I think another big thing, right? And again, without turning this into a food journal, which I don't want to do, there were a couple times where we were eating because we were visiting family. There were like times where, okay, we're meeting family for dinner. And a couple of times I wasn't like hungry for dinner at that time. But guess what? That's the time we're eating. So you're going to go and you're going to eat. It's honestly, I think it would be weird if I was like, oh, I'm not hungry. I'm not going to eat. Everyone's eating and I'm not eating. That's weird. Like, let's be honest. We can make choices, but sometimes it's going to feel like those choices are going to make you feel awkward, or those choices are going to make you feel uncomfortable, right? I think another great example of this is if you're at like family's house and someone's kind of like forcing food on you, or they made this thing and you're like, well, I don't want that, or I don't like that, or I'm full, or whatever. It can be tricky, right? It can be really, really tricky. How do I handle this? So I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of that, but how can you make choices that make you feel comfortable kind of in both situations, meaning make you feel comfortable sort of socially, but also make you feel comfortable internally. So on one of these occasions, I ended up ordering like a vegetable side dish. We were at a restaurant that actually had a lot of vegan options. It was delicious. I was totally not hungry. I think it was the day that we were in Boulder, and I'm going to go back and talk about that burger and ice cream. I wasn't hungry at all. If we had been at home, I probably would not have eaten dinner. Not because I had a burger and fries and ice cream for lunch and I was punishing myself, but because I just literally never got hungry again. For whatever reason, I just didn't get hungry again. But we were meeting Danny's aunt and cousin for dinner. So guess what? You're going to eat. So I ordered something off the menu that kind of felt like the easiest to deal with. And I didn't even finish that. And it didn't feel that great. It tasted good, but I just didn't really feel that great to eat because I was not hungry. But I wasn't going to not eat because that would have made me feel very uncomfortable. So I picked something that was kind of like the best option. But again, like, these are circumstances. This is what I mean when your choices are dictated by circumstances. So just because I'm going out to dinner doesn't mean I have to order what I would normally order. Can I modify my order? Or can I eat less? Or can I share something? Like, how can I make the circumstances work for me? Can I order an appetizer instead of a full entree? Like, I'm using kind of this situation of me not being hungry as like a very specific situation. So that was a couple times where I wasn't hungry and I had to kind of like figure it out. I ate at a time when I wasn't hungry, right? So circling back to eating with ease is not only eating when you're hungry and stop eating when you're full. Sometimes you have to eat when you're not hungry, not just when you're on vacation, but when you're at home based on your schedule, and you have to figure out a way to make it work. And there's a lot of ways to do that. But I didn't beat myself up. I wasn't punishing myself. I wasn't like worried about it. I made the best choice I could in the moment, and I figured it out. And honestly, at one of the meals, the first time that happened, I actually ended up like overeating a little bit because it was the first night with Danny's family, and we were talking, we were laughing, and it was a lot harder to pay attention. And guess what? There was a bowl of chips and guacamole right in front of me. So I wasn't really hungry. We walked in there, but guess what? I ate a bunch of chips and guacamole because it was sitting right in front of me. And so that was a time where I didn't really make great choices, and I was full, but I remember, and I wrote it down. I'm going to see if I can I wrote down with family, less attention, felt myself getting full, but I didn't I didn't stop. And I wrote down less T. And by T, I mean time, energy, and attention. I had less energy and attention because it had been a long travel day. We were seeing Danny's family for the first time. We were talking. I didn't have the energy and attention to like really pay as much attention. So I overate. Like it happened. But again, when I chose that meal, I still had NSF, nutritious, satisfying, filling. And what I ordered, which I think were fish tacos, checked all of those. So again, I ended up kind of eating more than I wanted to. But when I picked what I was ordering, I was still thinking nutritious, satisfying, filling, right? I was still using those skills. But again, the outcome was different. At the top of the episode, I said, it's always the same skills, or I think I said it. If not, you're using the same skills. The outcome might be different because of circumstances, right? We'd been traveling. Been a long day. I didn't have the energy and attention to keep myself company as well. I had enough to choose something that checked my NSF boxes. I didn't have enough to be able to totally follow through on it because that's life, that's circumstances, and I moved on. It didn't turn into a fuck it mode. It didn't turn into, well, I might as well get dessert tonight. It didn't turn into like, screw it, I'll just do whatever for the rest of the trip and I'll reset on Monday or whatever day we got back, Saturday night. I stayed with myself. And so you can stay with yourself while you're eating and you can stay with yourself after the fact. I want to talk specifically about this meal in Boulder that we had. So we did a really long hike, and a quick kind of sidebar here is we drove up to Boulder. Boulder's like 15 minutes away from Denver. Before we went to Smoothie King. Right? So we had a rental car. So that made it easy. That's a circumstance that made it easier for us to have some flexibility to grab stuff, right? So we had the ability to go, Danny and I both really like Smoothie King. That's easy for us. We're smoothie people. It's easy way to get protein and like some really good nutrition in the morning before and eat in the car. It was just like checked all the boxes. But interestingly, I did not get, my smoothie had no fat in it. It had a shit ton of protein. It was like 45 grams and some fruit and almond milk. And I think that was it. I didn't add almond butter. I don't know why. And literally I was hungry like an hour later. Like it was not filling. It tasted pretty good. Like it wasn't amazing, but just interesting that it was missing some of that nutrition. And I was hungry an hour later, which played a role in, I was starving by the time we got to lunch and ate the entire hamburger, all the fries, and then a huge ice cream cone. So we did this hike. And, had been up early because of the time change, had this smoothie, which wasn't filling. So we get to the lunch place. I knew I was in a mood for like a burger and fries. And the burger was like not that big and it was fine. It was nothing special. The fries were amazing. But I ate this entire burger, no problem. And I was not even super full when I was done. And I ate every single French fry. 1, because they were delicious, and 2, because I was really fucking hungry. And I had ordered a salad. That's right. I got a salad. So again, NSF, nutritious, satisfying, filling. I'm like, I'm getting a burger and fries, right? There's protein in there. What can I add to this to add some nutrition? The salad. The salad also adds volume for fullness. Satisfaction, the boxes are checked, burger and fries. And filling. I had protein. Obviously, there's fat all mixed in there, lots of fat, and I got the salad. So again, always using that and checking the boxes where I can. Sometimes I do a great job of that. Sometimes I don't do a great job of that. Sometimes I can't do it based on the circumstances, but I'm always thinking about it. I don't just throw it out the window because I'm on vacation. Again, back to the theme of you're using the same skills. The outcomes might be different. They're going to be different, and that is normal, and that is okay. Because, this is a little bit of a tangent, but related, very often, being on vacation, food is part of the experience. We're about to leave for Maine. Do you know how many fucking lobster rolls and French fries and blueberry pie I'm going to eat because I'm in Maine? And guess what? There is going to be some urgency because I don't live in Maine, and I'm not going to be going back to Maine anytime soon. So there is going to be a little bit of urgency around wanting to eat, not as much, but a lot of that food because it's really special and it's part of the experience. Does that mean I'm going to stuff and gorge myself? Well, we'll find out after I get back. That's certainly not going to be my intent. And I'm not going into that trip saying, fuck it for the next 10 days. This is going to be a free-for-all of butter-drenched lobster rolls and blueberry pie and French fries, and I will just do a reset when I get back. No, hard no. Because that will feel terrible. That will suck all of the pleasure out of that food if I eat it up until that point. Sidebar, there is a diminishing law of returns on all food. If you are eating a food whose only job it is to taste good, which I would put blueberry pie and french fries in that category, and ice cream, you get to a point where you hit a bite and that bite no longer tastes as good as the previous bite or as the first bite. And that is where your diminishing returns curve has crested and it starts to drop. And that's the point at which you are stopping eating. But what happens is, because we make a decision in advance that we're either on vacation, this is my only chance, I'm already in fuck it mode, I've already blown it, I'm going to do a reset on Monday and I'm not going to be allowed to have this stuff, so I have to eat it now. We totally have no ability to pay attention to where that diminishing return starts to happen, and we just keep eating and we keep eating. And then we start to feel sick, and suddenly this food, whose only job it was to bring me pleasure and to feel good, is now actually making me feel like shit. It's actually doing the exact opposite job that it was intended to do. How fucking fascinating is that, right? This is like what we're doing in coaching, is learning how to recognize that point. Sidebar, yeah, I'm going to link it to weight loss. If you have no idea, no ability to notice where your diminishing return is on food, that's a big reason why you are struggling with weight, why you're either gaining weight or you're struggling to lose weight. This is how you lose weight without cutting out foods that you love, is learning to find that diminishing returns point and to stop eating there, which will inherently reduce your overall caloric intake and help you lose weight over time. Very different than saying, I'm not allowed to have french fries or blueberry pie, or I'm only allowed to have 2 bites, and using that external benchmark to cut you off, rather than your own internal mechanism saying, oh, wow, this doesn't taste as good anymore. And this is a skill you can develop. So if you're sitting there telling me I would just eat the whole thing no matter what, this is a step-by-step process that we learn. You don't just like flip a switch and know how to do that overnight. It's something that we do inside of coaching. And there's a very specific method that we use to work through that, to get you to the point where you can easily identify that point of diminishing returns and stop eating. Anyway, that was a tangent, but totally related. So I had this burger and fries. I even had some of Danny's fries because I was still hungry. And I knew I wanted ice cream. Oh, this was my birthday. Almost forgot. This was my birthday. So I knew I wanted like something fun to eat on my birthday in terms of a dessert. And there was a Van Leeuwen ice cream place, and they have great ice cream. So we went, I picked out the flavor I wanted, which happened to be a vegan flavor. I didn't get it because it's vegan, because I'm not vegan, but it was banana bread pudding fudge swirl ice cream. Now, this is where we really talk about satisfaction. The only job of ice cream is to taste good. And I actually don't love totally smooth, hard ice cream. Soft ice cream is different. But I like hard ice cream that has stuff mixed in, that has a lot of texture. So this was banana bread pudding ice cream. So it had like chunks of banana bread, and then it had like fudge swirled in that was kind of like gooey. So it had all these different texture combinations. And I am a major texture person when it comes to food. I actually think all humans are. I'm going to do a separate episode about that. I think it's the most underrated part of eating that can actually play a huge role in helping you self-regulate around food. But this ice cream was so fucking good that I'm eating it. And I'm like, this is a great example of the point of diminishing returns. I never felt that. The whole thing was fucking good, and so I ate the whole fucking thing. And so you might say, oh, well, that would happen to me every time, but I guarantee you it wouldn't, because the day before I had the Crumbl cookies, and after 2 bites, I was like, this isn't even good. Right? Sometimes the thing is really fucking good all the way to the end. Very often it is not. And so that's like, being able to distinguish that is huge. So I ate that whole ice cream, like with gusto, with pleasure. And it was awesome, right? It's that texture played such a huge role in my enjoyment of that. And so again, like I wasn't eating it in that way because it was my birthday. I kept eating it because it was so good. It was just awesome. And it never stopped tasting good to me. And yeah, sometimes that's going to happen. And again, I'm repeating myself now, but you're going to say, oh, that would happen to me every time. It wouldn't. It feels like it would now because that's the only lived experience you have. But once you learn and practice those step-by-step skills, like I had a client who like peanut M&Ms were like her thing. And she would buy like the big jars from Costco and blow through them. And after she went through this process, she was like, I don't even really love peanut M&Ms. Like, and she realized that she like actually never even really loved them. She would just eat them because she thought she loved them, and because there were so many circumstances and situations happening around her that she would just keep going, right? So sometimes the things we think we love or the things we think we wanted, like I had that crazy craving for the chocolate chip cookie, and then I got it and I took 2 bites and it wasn't even that great. And I'm like, I don't even want this. I'm done. I kind of felt like the craving had sort of been satisfied. So I wanted to kind of talk through like the juxtaposition of like the Crumbl cookie versus the ice cream situation to kind of show you like same skills, different outcomes, and to kind of bring in some of these dinners where I wasn't really hungry, but I was eating anyway, right? You're working with circumstances, and you're often not going to be in control, but how can you still stay present, right? There's a what, a why, and a how of eating. What you eat means like, what's the actual food I'm eating? Why I'm eating? What's the reason that I'm eating? How am I eating? How fast am I eating? How much am I eating? So there's all those variables, and it's very rare that you have no control over all of them. Very often, the one when you're traveling that you won't have control over with will be the what, right? If you're eating at a restaurant or you're eating at a family's house where you can't choose the food, but you do have autonomy over why you're eating, and you have autonomy over how you're eating, because those are internally driven actions. The what is sometimes being controlled by someone else, but you can have control over why you eat, and you can have control over how you're eating, or you can notice why you're eating. Again, sometimes you're eating because of circumstances. So that is another external situation where you might not have as much control. But if you're pissed off, if you're sad, if you're angry, if you're bored, if you're annoyed, those are much more internally driven reasons that you can make choices around. And how much you're eating, right, are things that you have control over. And so being able to look at eating through the lens of that as well. Again, same skills as when you're at home, maybe different outcomes, again, because of those circumstances. Oh, I just talked a lot. I'm going to start to wrap this up soon. One other thing, maybe 2 other things. I had another big dessert while we were there. So I had dessert. I had the ice cream on my birthday, and then on Friday we went out to lunch with Danny's cousin, and I had a dessert. We were at this amazing Japanese restaurant, and they had a dessert on the menu that sounded like it was like right up my alley. And I ordered it, and I will tell you, it was right up my alley. Danny and I shared that. Would I have gotten like another big dessert the day after, like had like that was like a lot of ice cream I ate on my birthday, and then we went out the next day? That's not something I would normally do at home. Because I wouldn't really be in the circumstances for that. And also because eating like desserts like that every day is not something that really like feels great for me on a regular basis, right? Once in a while, yeah, sure, it might happen. That's not something I'm doing like every week. But here was a situation, we're at this restaurant. I'm never going to have this dessert again. Sounded amazing. I'm like, I'm getting this, right? That was a circumstance-based decision. I would have made a different decision had I been at home, but I was using the same skills. I was like hungry for it, meaning I wasn't stuffed. Not that you separate skill, but you actually don't want to be hungry when you get dessert, because then you're going to eat the whole thing. That's one of the skills that we work on when you are working on diminishing returns. Flashing back to the story I told maybe 5-10 minutes ago about the burger and ice cream, part of the reason I ate all the ice cream was I was still hungry after I had that burger and fries. And I talked about that, right? I was not totally full. So that actually, maybe there was a diminishing return with that ice cream, but I couldn't see it because I was still hungry when I started eating that. You don't want to eat dessert when you're hungry, because the job of dessert is not to fill hunger. The job of dessert is just to taste fucking good. And if you use it to fill hunger, yeah, then you will overeat it. You will not be able to pay attention to your diminishing return point, right? So that is very much part of the skill set that we develop, and you learn how to practice diminishing returns by having an NSF meal first. So with this Sunday that I had, of course I totally lost my train of thought. I was like fairly full after my lunch. So Danny and I split this, and it was easier for me to self-regulate. The 2 of us did finish it. But again, I would not have done that if I had been at home. That was purely circumstances that I ordered that dessert. So I think, and there were a couple times where I was starving. I mentioned that already with the burger. There was another, before we went out for that Japanese lunch, I was starving. I had had like a Fairlife that I had bought the night before sitting in the fridge of the room. It was not enough because it was like 150 calories. 150 calories is not enough for a meal. So obviously I was starving. But wherever we were, I could not eat anything. There wasn't anything available to eat. And I had to deal with the hunger. And hunger is not an emergency. Sometimes we think it's an emergency. It's not an emergency. And just being able to recognize that and like slow down. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have lunch in an hour. You can handle this. It's going to be okay. Just recognizing that feeling hunger is not bad. It's not a problem. When we get really, really hungry, it feels uncomfortable and we start to feel panicked and we often overeat as a result. But sometimes if you anticipate that happening, saying to yourself, hunger is not an emergency, I can handle this, will help you self-regulate when you do get in front of food and not overeat. So I think kind of like the big summarizing thing, I'm going to wrap this up, is this. Sometimes I ate because I was hungry. Sometimes I ate because I was craving something. Sometimes I ate because the food just sounded fucking awesome. Sometimes I ate because I was with family. Sometimes I ate because it was the circumstances. Sometimes I ate the entire dish or dessert. Sometimes I ate 2 bites. Because again, the objective is not to have the same outcome every time. The objective is not to have the same outcome as when you are at home. The objective is to stay present with yourself, to keep yourself company, to use your skills and be making choices within the circumstances to the extent that you can, right? Knowing that sometimes those choices are going to be limited, they're going to be impacted, and leaning into flexibility when it's there and knowing that, okay, well, I've done as much as I can in this situation and it kind of is what it is, right? So understand why you're making the choice that you're making. Maybe you're eating something that you didn't really want to eat because of the circumstance. Okay, well, I can understand that. That's very different than like shoving Oreo cookies in my face from the mini bar because like I had a shitty day, right? Those are different situations. So again, the objective is not to make the same choice every time in every situation. Certainly not, I'm repeating myself as I always do, but not making the same choices when you're at home. The objective is to know why you're making the choice that you are making and to know that you have the autonomy to do that and to recognize like I'm making this choice because of circumstances and that's okay. So I hope this was helpful. I just talked a lot. Oh my gosh, this is 40 minutes. If you guys have questions, you know where to find me. I'm going to take a week off because we're going to be on vacation. So next new episode will be, it's like the first Monday of August. That will probably be the episode about running. That's it. I super appreciate the reviews and ratings you guys have been leaving. It's awesome. It really helps the podcast. And it helps me too. So thank you so much. I appreciate you for listening, and for your time, energy, and attention, which is so limited and so valuable. Okay. See you soon.